Hey folks, welcome to another VR video. Today you're going to see my smiling face as opposed to myself in a headset for most of this video because we're going to be talking about how I acquired these two headsets right here, the Oculus VR HD Prototype and the Oculus Crescent Bay Prototype. So this is a story that's going to be mostly myself talking and showing off pictures. There will be some footage of me using the HD prototype. Unfortunately, the Crescent Bay prototype, similar actually to the original CV1 Oculus Rift, needs some TLC for it to work for my current setup. I use a PC that only has USB 2.0 ports, and the Rift and the Crescent Bay prototype both seem to be a little bit more power hungry and need USB 3. I am going to look into, I think at one point I bought an Inatech USB 3 card. I think it may have even been on the suggestion of Mike from VR Oasis. Little plug for a friend of mine. But I don't know where I put that card, and I didn't need it for my normal Rift PC that I had been using for a couple of years, so it kind of got discarded in a pile or put into storage or something of that nature. So right now I haven't actually been able to fully test the Crescent Bay prototype. I can say that the Crescent Bay prototype does show up in the Oculus config tool with the old 0.7 and 0.8 runtimes. It does register as a Crescent Bay 3. I don't know what that means. I know there's a 1, 2, 3, and a 1/2. I don't know. I wasn't around as part of the dev community that were sent these. I wasn't a part of the demos outside of trying Lucky's Tale on one at PAX one year. But let's get to the story of where these came from. A couple of weeks back, I became eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine. And sure enough, I was scheduled to get an appointment. I had the first shot. I haven't died. I don't have good 5G signal. My arm was a little bit sore for a couple of days. And later this week, I'll be getting my second dose, and hopefully that will lead to many others getting their doses and we having society back sometime in the near future. But after getting that first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine, I went home and I was surfing the internet and I stumbled across something. For a number of months, I've been scouring the internet looking for really a couple of specific targeted older but not old VR headsets. I went to Los Angeles, my one trip that I took in all of 2020. My wife and I went to Los Angeles for a single day. We stayed at a hotel that had good circulation and really not that many visitors, and we were as safe as possible with the lowest COVID-19 rates at the time throughout the state of California. And on the way down, I was looking and I stumbled across a Craigslist listing for a Vive prototype headset, which actually ended up being just the Vive developer kit. Just the headset, unfortunately, so no Mr. Hat or Sombrero controllers, no Robin lighthouses, just the headset. And honestly, I've never actually been able to get that headset working. It's more just a shelf piece at the current time. But while I was there, I also got a prototype ODG R9 AR headset, and it kind of got me a little bit obsessed for looking for these somewhat rare developer items. So I've been looking at eBay, OfferUp, Mercari. I've been looking at Yahoo Japan. I've been looking at searchcraigslist.org. I've been looking all over the place, all over both the United States and the world for these headsets. And one of the places that I found some good, cool things, including a old Woozer strap, haptic feedback strap, a Subpack M2. I found lots of cool stuff. But lo and behold, the night after my vaccine, I looked and I found this. The Oculus VR HD Prototype on shopgoodwill.com, and it was being sold through Seattle Goodwill. Now, Seattle Goodwill, there's an Oculus in Seattle. There's a lot of developers in Seattle and Vancouver. They did not have what the source of these headsets were. But this particular headset was there. I got super excited. I threw down a bid immediately. There was one bid at the time on the device. Suddenly I had the high bid, and I didn't want to lose this device. And I'll tell you why I didn't want to lose this device. There's a couple of reasons. One, this is really the only headset that Oculus showed off publicly that didn't become an actual Oculus headset. So the DK1 led to this device, which led to another device called the Crystal Cove, which was really, really close in specs to the DK2, which led to the Crescent Bay, which was pretty close to the consumer version of the Rift. So this device I had never really had a lot of experience with, and it isn't really something that comes up that often. I believe the prototypes were directed to be sent back to Oculus by developers, and it was only shown off at a couple of events. So I think it was a GDC, a CES, and a Gamescom, as well as PAX Australia. So maybe 4 events in its short lifetime. And then it was quickly replaced by the Crystal Cove, which was quickly replaced by the actual DK2, and then replaced about a year or so later by the Crescent Bay, which was quickly replaced by the Rift. So a few years back, I had the opportunity to participate in an auction of assets from a closing VR company, and this headset popped up in a lot. I bid an amount that was probably a bit too low at the time, but at the time I also didn't even have a DK1 or a DK2. I didn't really have a PC to run it on. It was just, oh cool, shiny, I'd like to try that. Now I have a PC that's invested and dedicated specifically to these things. So I see this headset and I absolutely want it. So I have bid on this headset. And strangely enough, as I'm looking through the listings, I find something else. From the exact same Seattle Goodwill location is another Oculus Rift HD Prototype. This one comes with a case, and it looks a little different because it's the Crescent Bay Prototype. Now, this particular prototype does come with a positional tracking camera. It does use constellation tracking, just like the CV1 Rift. My version has a little tripod with it. It does have a sync cable to the Crescent Bay unit, and it came in one of the original dev kit cases. And I'm like, that's interesting. How did they fit that in the dev kit case? And you'll see, because I'm actually going to show these devices on screen in a few minutes, exactly how this stuff happened. So again, it's like, oh, I really like to have that too. Now, the Crescent Bay wasn't something I was looking for because, again, the specs on the Crescent Bay are very similar to the CV1. But since it was there and since it was available, I figured I would put a bid on it as well. So a week or so passed. I bid on both. I ended up winning both auction lots. They ended within around 20 minutes of each other. That was the longest 20 minutes of my life, probably. I was super excited. Someone tried to do one of those bids at the very last second to snipe me and steal this particular auction, but their bid was not high enough because I am crazy. And as you can see, I won these two headsets. If you look at the current price on both, it was a little under $400 for these two headsets, which again, these are outdated. For most people, that's a lot of money. I paid $10 for one of my DK1s. The most I have spent for a DK1 or a DK2, and I've got kind of a stack of those right now, is around $40. They're not something that's super usable, but somehow I've become a collector of these devices. So the next thing that happened, of course, is they shipped these devices. And I prayed that Federal Express didn't lose them. So after a few days, where FedEx said, it's shipping tomorrow, and I check and then it doesn't actually arrive. It's shipping tomorrow, and I check and it doesn't arrive. And then it came up with a strange message that said that the shipment was pending, which made me think my worst fears have happened. FedEx has lost my package. The next day, it showed it was actually on a vehicle for delivery, and this box arrived. It is a nondescript cardboard box. It is not like an awesome, you've won an amazing treasure, which is awesome because something like that would have potentially been stolen from my doorstep. I didn't film the unboxing, but I took lots of pictures, so you get to see this is the packaging. They wrapped it very, very solidly in a huge bubble wrap. So both headsets were secured in the box. There was no chance of damage, which is great because these headsets are in pretty darn good condition. Opening up the bubble wrap, you can see on top, in that wrapped in plastic bag, is the HD Prototype. And then below that, inside the DK case, is the Crescent Bay Prototype. So I pulled the HD Prototype out. It is in the plastic bag still in this shot. I'll be showing both physically in just a moment, but it was really, really exciting to pull this out of that box. This was one of the headsets that I never thought I would ever own, and here I had it in my hand. It was pretty awesome. So still in the box, of course, was the DK case. I wasn't sure how the Crescent Bay would fit in the DK case because it's got padding that's really molded specifically for the DK1. But sure enough, what they had done is actually there was kind of like a hollow cutout for the entire Crescent Bay kit. So on one side you see a little tripod, then the headset itself with all of the cables underneath. There is a cable attached, but it's actually the cable that would be on the DK2, which surprised me. It's not a single cable that breaks out into two cables like the HD Prototype. It actually moves on to a DK2 cable with a little power connector with the clip for the positional sensor. It's exactly the same cable that's on the DK2, whereas the HD Prototype, which I'll be showing, has a cable that goes directly to the PC. So there's kind of, it's not really a breakout box, but there's a little box on the DK2 cable that's attached to the Crescent Bay that you can apply a power adapter to. I have tried it with the DK2 power adapter because this one did not ship with one. And then next to the Crescent Bay Prototype, that little box in the corner is actually the positional tracking camera that's used with the Constellation system. So what do these headsets look like? Well, this is the HD Prototype. It's actually super light. It's a lot lighter than the original DK1. It still has the little coin dial eye relief on both sides. This is the only headset that I have by Oculus that actually says Oculus VR on it. All the other devices just say Oculus. Of course, this has the old eye logo for Oculus on it, and it says clearly at the bottom HD Prototype. Now, what's different from the DK1 is there's no breakout box. There is a little clip here that you can attach to the center head strap. The head strap's a little bit different than what I've seen in the past too. It's got like a little, they tried to do a cup for the back of your head. It looks like, I'm not really sure what this is for. It might actually be like supposed to be to loop something like a headphone or something, but this cable's attached to the center strap. I'm not sure why. I've just kind of left it in place for right now. The same type of adjustable ski goggle style headband, though, from the original DK1 or the DK2, and it does say Oculus along that ski goggle style band. It's got lenses. As you can see, those lenses are inset, and they've got the little clips, so I believe the A, B, and C cup lenses that come with the original DK1 might fit in the same slots. I'm not going to change them, but they are removable. They've got the little clips very similar to the DK1 or the DK2. The other piece that I found that was interesting is there is a single mounting point at the top here with 2 cables coming out. Now, the original DK1 had a little breakout box. This is a pretty substantial cable here. And then at the end of the cable, you've got a USB 2.0 port and an HDMI port. So this connects directly to the PC. Once connected to the PC, it is recognized as an Oculus DK HD 2, and it's got a completely different image from what the actual headset looks like. It actually looks more like the headset that was on the Oculus Kickstarter page than the actual headset itself. So also in the shipment was this right here. It's a normal Oculus DK kit. It doesn't say DK1, it just says Development Kit DK. It's got the OculusVR.com logo on here. It's got Oculus VR with the I logo here. It does say copyright 2013 Oculus VR Incorporated. And then when we open it up, just like you saw in the picture, boom. So we've got the Crescent Bay headset. We've got the little tripod, which ended up being a Manfrotto branded tripod. So I don't know if it's actually something that would have shipped with one of these. And then the little positional tracking camera sensor right there. So going through the pieces, the thing that kind of struck me as odd was the positional tracking camera. It's right here. It's just a little rectangular device. It does have an output cable for syncing to the headset directly, and it's got this little micro B connector which connects to a cable, and it's very hard to fit that micro B connection with this cable attached. So I'm really not sure how this was designed. I know these, I believe, were hand assembled. This one is a little weird to work with. Of course, it's got the mounting section right here to connect it to this little job or any other standard threaded tripod mount. So of course we just connect it right here. Now I have a positional camera for the Constellation system in the Crescent Bay. Now that tracking system comes with 2 cables. This one has just a 3.5mm jack on each side, which is for the sync cable between the cable attached to the Crescent Bay and the little spot on the back of the camera. And then this cable, which is even labeled as a Cable Matters cable, so it's probably not standard. It has the micro B connection on one end and a USB 3.0 on the other. So those 2 cables are used strictly for the positional tracking sensor. Again, I don't know that it necessarily works because when I plug it into my old VR PC that runs the old Oculus runtimes, it does not recognize it. It does recognize, however, the headset, which is right here. And the headset, of course, looks a lot like a Rift. In this particular case, it has exposed sensors. And of course, it's got the exposed sensors on the back as well, because the Crescent Bay was the first prototype that actually had full 360-degree tracking. It has headphones very similar to the ones on the Rift. Those headphones do work. I do get audio output when I plug this in and try to run software. So I think it's really just I don't have the right USB power to make this work. If we look inside, it looks like a Rift, honestly. Like, it's not that different from the consumer version of the Rift. However, the cable that comes with it absolutely is different. Because if you look here, it's got the old Oculus logo on the HDMI and USB ports. This USB cable just ends in a white USB, so it, in theory, should work with USB 2. And it's got this little sync and power adapter. I don't want to call it a breakout box, but that's kind of what it is. So you can see the sync adapter here and the power adapter here. This headset, for all intents and purposes, should work, but unfortunately, like I said, I don't have a USB 3.0 port. The LED glows when I plug it into the computer. It just doesn't pull up a picture in the headset. So it may just be a mantelpiece, but it's a very cool device nonetheless to have, because it's a piece of history. It's a piece of Oculus history, which is a brand that I've been using now for 5 years or so on a regular basis. So having these two headsets and having these pieces of history made me jump back into my old VR content again. And what you're about to see is some footage that I've recorded using the HD Prototype on my old VR PC. Alright, so I'm going to be playing some of my favorite games in the HD Prototype. So the first one we're playing is TXK. This was a demo. This was something that was actually available on the PlayStation Vita, but they made a VR demo. Atari didn't like that it was a lot like Tempest and decided that this couldn't come out on any other platforms. So unfortunately, this demo is the only way to play this game. There was a later game, Polybius, which is available in VR. And eventually, Llamasoft settled with Atari and actually distributed Tempest 4000, which unfortunately does not have a VR mode. And I played this on the DK2, the DK1, and now on the HD Prototype. And I feel like the HD Prototype, because it's lighter, because it's kind of all in one piece, there's no positional tracker needed, works really well for this game. I'm still not sold on the resolution being worse than the DK2. I feel like, to be perfectly honest, I like this more, even though the DK2, I believe, has what's essentially a 1440 display, whereas this is just a 1080p display. Overall, though, this game plays extremely well in either headset, in any of the three, and it's one of my favorites. So we'll play this for a little bit, and then we'll jump into another title, which was actually remarked, this other title that we'll be playing after this, was remarked as one of the games that the developer for the title was super excited was demonstrated on this HD Prototype at least one of the trade shows that it was demonstrated at. I could certainly have seen Oculus moving on from the DK1, and maybe there was a scenario where they weren't acquired by Facebook, or where they decided that they wanted to have a consumer release earlier for whatever reason. You could totally have seen this headset being that first consumer release, or a headset based off of this headset. I will say, you know, there is a little bit more distortion, there's a little bit more motion blur than I would like to see. But, you know, that also occurs in the DK2, so I can't say that one is really truly better than the other in my eyes currently. Again, I've only had this headset for a short period of time, whereas I've had the DK2 for a lot longer. I'm more used to using that headset. Obviously, that headset offers positional tracking, which helps to combat motion sickness a bit more. And there's a lot of other advantages, too, for comfort with that headset, because it does render at 75 Hertz, whereas this one, I believe, is 60 Hertz. I haven't actually clocked that at all, though, so I can't tell you for sure that that is the case with this particular prototype. But I am ecstatic with this game and this prototype headset. It works really well. I'm going to try to beat my high score, too. 202,000 as my current high score. So I've got these flowers that start showing up here. Got an extra life right there. See what we get here.
Space is everything.
Oh, we died. Let's see. Okay, good. We got it. We got it. We didn't end up dying. I was able to use a missile there to clear the board. And now we've got some help with a drone. Let the drone take care of the ones when they reach the top here. And here we go. We have finished that level.
Space is everything.
But I love the Llamasoft games. One of them actually, Polybius, ended up being in the 9 Inch Nails video for less than... It really fits well. Such a crazy mix of vector graphics and shooting and just fun. I really enjoy these games. And they're fairly inexpensive. I think Polybius right now is around $8 to $10. Can that jump? There's our drone coming back. I'm just gonna go around very quickly here.
Space is everything.
Got 2 warp triangles right now. I honestly haven't used those, so I don't really know what they do. I'm assuming they probably warp to another screen. I haven't needed to do that yet. But you know, this is a demo game, and we've already been playing it for quite some time. It plays really well. And I just really wish this was something that had actually been able to materialize as a virtual reality title. It is Arcady. It's fast-paced. And it's a ton of fun. Of course, jump enabled right as I die.
Space is everything.
Alright, So we got the AI drone now to mop up the floor for my terrible gameplay here on this level. Thank you, cows. I was able to use a missile there to save myself. We've now got 3 of those warp triangles that I'm not really sure what they do as we move on to another level. So this is Pent. This is a pentagon. You'll see these characters are a little bit harder to defeat. We've got these that break up into 4 or 5 the red X characters at once. Good, we got an AI droid. We really needed that. We might be able to make it through because of that. Without the AI droid, I don't know if we would have made it, to be perfectly honest, because these come out fast and furious here. Got 4 warp triangles now, whatever those may be. And we got an extra guy. Awesome. And a new high score. As we keep going, we've gone past Pent now. Alright, so we need to fly through the rings. Left stick to steer, okay. So as you can see, the game changed dramatically here. It's no longer a Tempest style shooter. It's more of a almost Battlezone style game here. I love the cow moves as well. Cows and ox are a huge part of the Llamasoft games. Yeah, this environment is super trippy. Really like it a lot. We're almost to the end of this level. You can tell by the spinning circle here. Getting closer to the end. Closer to the actual center you are, the more points you get. Alright, so we got a bunch of bonus points, 50,000 extra bonus points on that one. And here is a much harder level. Almost like a supernova there. Oh good, we got the AI droid back. That's gonna help us clean house here. Awesome. So I don't know how many levels there are in this, actually. I don't think I've ever played this far. Obviously, I've got a high score that I didn't have before, so I am curious if we're actually going to finish this as we play through. I don't know how many levels are actually in this demo. It's very possible we may actually be able to finish the entirety of this. As I say that, we got electrocuted by a kind of supernova-y star. Okay, we barely hung on there. We got our AI droid. We're gonna make it. We're on the verge of death there. And that's it. Game over. So we're going to jump into one other experience before we end the day, but new high score. Tons of fun. This is TXK. Alright, so up next is Oculus, which is a game that came from Alchemy Labs and Deja Vu Games. This was really the first, I think, Alchemy Labs VR experience. So we're going to hit jump here. Now that we've hit jump, we should be able to use the controller. And we're going to do some base jumping. And try not to die in the midst of it. And despite the fact that what you're seeing as the game window is a kind of barrel distorted image, this is one of the first games that I've played that actually had a spectator view. And you know, Alchemy has always been really good about sharing ways to do spectator views, ways to bring more people into the experience in virtual reality. And I really respect that. They've done an excellent job over the years trying to get to that target, and we made it. And we got 5 stars. We rock. But they've done an excellent job over the years in, you know, really sharing your experience with spectators. So that's pretty sweet. We'll do this one more time. It is just a single level. Now, this game did become for the Awesome, which is available on Steam. It does work with the DK2, or of course if you have this device, it would probably work with this one as well. But it does require the older 0.8 runtime. So if you have real Oculus software for consumer version, you're not going to be able to get much use out of this game in VR. It does play just fine in a non-VR environment. Just, you know, it's way more fun base jumping in VR than outside of VR. Alright, so we didn't do as well the second time, but it's a quick look at Oculus. So before I leave, I just want to thank whoever donated these headsets, mystery benefactor, to Seattle Goodwill. Didn't just discard them and throw them away. I was super happy to be able to donate money to Goodwill because they provide jobs and placement for people that need them, especially in a critical time like the pandemic that we're currently facing. This headset is a treasure. In most cases, it's going to replace my DK1. The screen resolution is that much better than the original dev kit. It does have some motion blur issues. It does have a bit more of the edges of the screen showing on screen, but it works really well. I can see a lot clearer picture using this headset It is not compatible with every single experience I have tried, but it works pretty well with runtimes 0.4 onward. And I'm excited to have this as part of my collection, and the ability to kind of rotate through and see the entire development cycle essentially that Oculus went through between the original dev kit, the DK1, all the way through to now, of course, the Quest 2. I love having all of this history available to me. I have quite a collection of the older pre-Oculus Home runtime files and a bunch of software, around 200 gigabytes or so of software for those older runtimes that still support them. Unfortunately, I don't have a magical archive or the ability to go back in time to preserve what was on Oculus Share, which died a untimely death. But having this headset, having a DK1, having a DK2, having a Crescent Bay, having initial consumer version Rift, having a Rift S, having a Quest 2, having a multitude of Gear VR devices, I have that history of Oculus. And I'm not going to call myself an Oculus fanboy, because the thing that actually got me into VR was the HTC Vive Pre. And I still have a lot of love for HTC. I have love for lots of other headset manufacturers. There's future hope for other companies also as well. This isn't a Facebook monopoly. This isn't a Sony monopoly. This isn't an HTC monopoly. It's a bunch of people enthusiastic about virtual reality. And whoever that enthusiastic person about virtual reality was that donated these, thank you. And to Seattle Goodwill for posting this, thank you. And to you for watching this, especially, thank you. I'll be back with more content soon. Until next time, get out there and enjoy some VR for yourself. And thanks for watching. Bye-bye now.